A pop art style bathroom looks truly striking and draws attention. And of course, the idea of using a steam room and a bath. Here, it's more about landscape design, exotic landscape design. Full Spaniards, birch trees are exotic. I also really liked, and it immediately catches the eye, as always a very playful, very ironic installation by Marcel Wanders, which he created together with Hello, Friend. We're back in Madrid, and today we'll be reviewing an event called Casa Decor. As I promised during the Madrid Design Festival, we're coming back here together. Here we are again, and I have to say, last year this event made a big impression on me. In fact, I consider it the best in 2024, at least among those I managed to attend. And here's why. Because every year, and this has been going on for 33 years now, Casa Decor, which is a sort of interior design magazine in Madrid, selects an amazing historic mansion and transforms it completely in a brand new way for a month and a half. Designers, architects, and suppliers are invited. This year, it's already the 60th such exhibition installation. It should be said that they haven't only taken place in Madrid. There have been sessions in Barcelona and Valencia, but mostly here. This time, we're looking at a mansion on Sagasta Street. It's a former apartment building, which was built at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries, commissioned by the widow of a Basque entrepreneur. They were built as apartment buildings by, you could say, a sort of court architect who had been working with this family for quite some time. And, in fact, it's actually two buildings, but they look quite unified. In terms of style, they correspond to the fashionable trends of that era. So here there's a bit of neo-Gothic, a little, or perhaps even quite a lot of rationalism, but inside there's also neoclassicism. So, on the right and left we see octagonal towers. In the middle, there's also a unifying element of this kind. It's very typical of that time to use these, you could say, brick panels combined with plaster. And of course, French balconies with wrought iron or just plain concrete pilasters are also present here. Now let's go inside and see what surprises the designers and, of course, the suppliers have prepared for this anniversary year, because regular products are used here, meaning things you can buy and use in your own projects. And that, I think, is quite interesting as well. So, there are no far-fetched concepts, everything is as practical as possible. The first room we enter is the entrance hall, and it too has undergone changes for this show. Here again, there is a combination of textures, with the most natural shades, warm tones, creamy and sandy hues, and once more, the colors of natural clay. By the way, it's those very ceramic blocks that represent clay here, and lately, quite a lot of them have appeared. They can be used to let light through, or for zoning purposes. And here, I really like how they've been used to decorate certain corners and to create these light, lacy columns. And this is truly a very interesting idea. In other words, they don't necessarily have to be arranged flat. You can also assemble them into some sort of three-dimensional form. To the left of the entrance, there's quite an interesting area. What makes it particularly interesting is, first and foremost, who created it. This is a chain, a global chain of building supply stores that is rather low-end, but nevertheless, as we can see, with the right approach, a bit of creativity and ingenuity, it's possible to make something visually pleasing even from inexpensive materials. Here, I liked the idea of using plaster moldings for decoration. Well, it's not actually plaster here. Of course, it's a polyurethane kitchen. And the bathroom is done quite well. The solution there lies in the use of a mirror. But there's nothing new here. Again, it's about using these ceramic blocks that let the light through. But here, they've installed backlighting behind them, which once again creates a certain sense of depth in the space. As for the functional layout, it's definitely worth noting the installation of a freestanding bath and a shower combined into a single shower area. This is actually a very practical idea that solves all the issues with splashing. It's a single wet area, and it's probably the most convenient option when you want to install a freestanding bath but don't have a lot of space, which, generally speaking, happens quite often. To the right of the entrance is the cafe and restaurant. Both the cafe and the restaurant are traditionally run by the Villa Magna Hotel. By the way, we were there during the Madrid Design Festival, so if you haven't seen it, do have a look, and in general, it's a very respectable place. There's a real variety of different textures here. There's ceramics, plaster, some woven wooden elements, and very interestingly arranged veneer. As for the dining hall itself, I really liked the voluminous, once again parametric panels made from synthetic felt. In my opinion, they look fantastic, and at the same time provide acoustic comfort for the guests of this establishment. And of course, it's worth noting that there are two color trend directions here. These are earthy tones, terracotta and sandy shades, as well as a more pastel palette. These include sage tones and green shades, a touch of green with grey, and all of this pairs beautifully, once again, with a white that isn't a literal white, but more like ivory or baked milk. All in all, everything here has been chosen brilliantly as well. Considering this is a city mansion, my main concern was that there wouldn't be an outdoor area, but there actually is. There are two inner courtyards, each featuring specific arrangements. Here, it's more about landscape design, exotic landscape design. For Spaniards, birch trees are considered exotic. I also really liked these felt beehive-like structures. And then there's another inner courtyard, which features an outdoor pavilion, a garden pavilion, and also an outdoor spa area. Another interesting thing is this transition corridor. More precisely, what's interesting is the material it's finished with. The highly textured surface is made up of panels crafted from a composite that includes wood powder. But the texture itself is very original. It mimics the pattern and volume of metal rods fused together, yet it looks very warm and not at all industrial. Perhaps that's because it's complemented by textile lamps, which are also highly expressive and striking. The entire exhibition is spread over 5 floors and features more than 50 different rooms. Of course, I won't be able to tell you about every single one, but I'll highlight a few that made the biggest impression on me. When you reach the 2nd floor, you first find yourself in a bathroom by our long-standing partner, the company Mosaic. This is a biomaterial bathroom. Here you can already recognize the models, mostly the ones we talked about quite a lot last time at the ISK exhibition. So do take note. The manufacturer is excellent, and what's more, it's completely accessible. Next, we enter the grotto. Here, a natural stone manufacturer is showcasing their capabilities. And it's worth noting here that natural stone is now being highlighted again. This is also quite a current trend at the moment. As for the kitchen, I would point out the use of this oxidized brass here. This is also quite relevant, both in modern aesthetics and in more classical ones, as we see here. And of course, once again, there's some very good work with the stone used for the countertop. There's also a rather interesting pattern laid out on the floor, featuring a very striking facet. Some people might think that it's not very practical, but nevertheless, it looks quite striking and, once again, is visually rather interesting. Right now, we're also in a kind of grotto, but this grotto is dedicated to tiles, terracotta, as you can see. I really liked how creatively they used the tiles to create this sort of biomorphic scale effect. And of course, there are also some objects here, again, biophilic objects made from natural clay. And naturally, this pool that's been installed in the center demonstrates, on the one hand, the physical qualities of the tiles themselves, since, after all, this is mainly about tiles, but it also gives you something to think about. There's a very unusual installation at the cutlery manufacturer's stand. Here, their products are also on display, as it were. We're all already used to the fact that the shapes of furniture are becoming increasingly curved. And here, in this interior, you can see, among other things, curved walls and curved wash basin furniture. The combination of materials is also quite interesting. because here you have wood, natural stone, metal, and wood again, all in completely different finishes and forms. All in all, I wouldn't say that this particular bathroom looks especially practical, but the combination of materials and these lines, in my opinion, is worth paying attention to. Where else would you really demonstrate the capabilities of acoustic panels if not in a room with a home cinema? And here, aside from the aesthetics of these acoustic surfaces and panels, there are also small but rather stylish sound systems displayed on these marvelous columns, which have been 3D printed. By the way, I liked these guys last year as well. They showcased lighting fixtures at Casa Decor in Tomini, as well as other elements of architectural decor, both for the exterior and interior of buildings. All in all, in my opinion, this technology in such a form deserves attention, because it really is very striking. It must be said that not all sanitary ware manufacturers have taken a literal approach to their presence here, because many are showcasing some prototypes of bathrooms, some very close to real living spaces, others more conceptual. But one, by the way, quite a reputable Chinese sanitary ware manufacturer, has presented an absolutely immersive space, in which it's actually rather difficult to discern the very idea of a bathroom itself, but as an impression, it's remarkable, because all the senses are engaged, optical illusions, the sounds of nature, and even aroma decor is used. All in all, the installation is impressive. Pink kitchens very rarely look decent. In fact, they almost never look decent. But this particular example is actually an exception to that, you could say, rule. Here, it's the combination of the pink matte fronts with copper side panels, and of course, with natural stone that has pink veins, and also with the pink upholstery of the integrated custom sofa. That's something new and very unusual as well, and it's quite possible that it's even comfortable. And of course, to complement this combination, darker shades are used. A darker shade of wood and wine-colored velvet upholstery on the bar stools. By the way, when it comes to wine shades, Bordeaux, Burgundy, that's also a very current trend at the moment. But, as you can imagine, for it to look harmonious, you need to use it very sparingly. And just like last year, the Neolit company's pavilion strikes right at the heart. Last year, they had a sort of garden temple, a meditative space, very unusual. This year, they have a labyrinth. Once again, it's a highly fragmented space with arches, natural fur, greenery, and a changing lighting scene. And of course, one of the creators is there in a silvery suit to match the installation. So, apparently, he's also part of the concept. An installation is also an opportunity to have a bit of fun and create something that a client would hardly approve of. A bathroom in pop art style, let's call it that, looks truly striking and draws attention. The idea of having a double bath and sauna also has every right to exist. After all, there are double sinks, and that's quite logical. People have different routines. A wife and husband might have different paces. And when it comes to taking a bath, that too can be different for everyone. Some people prefer cooler water, others like it hotter. Some want one type of bath salt, others another. But you still want to have a chat in the bathroom, so why not? By the way, speaking of textures, it has to be said that buccal and travertine clearly never want to leave our lives, and let them stay. It really does look quite decent, as long as it's used in moderation. I also thought that the combination of burgundy and green shades was really quite good. It does look a bit Christmassy in some ways, but at the same time it feels rather warm and cozy, perhaps even with a touch of the north about it. And then there's the presence of metallic surfaces as well. We've already seen this in various forms, with different textures and different metals, too. Combined, once again, with natural stone, it also looks very much on trend. And then there are the various tile shapes. And by shapes, I don't just mean square or rectangular, but the actual form itself. It's something new, unusual, perhaps, as I've already mentioned, not the most practical, but certainly striking. Again, with a fairly creative approach, you can create real luxury using ordinary tiles. Everything you see here is cut from standard porcelain stoneware with a marble effect pattern. This applies to the window frames, the doorways, and these tall skirting boards as well. The furniture is made in the same way from ceramics, as are the fireplace and the entire bathroom, except, of course, for the bathtub itself. Here is the bathtub, which has been carved from natural stone. And of course, having a bathroom right in the tower is very cool and luxurious. And here, a little further on, is another example of using 3D. And the more I look, the more this technology amazes me, especially when it's truly in the skilled hands of a designer. These can really be some architectural elements. These architectural elements can also serve as light fixtures. For example, such glowing columns of irregular shape. You can create very interesting patterns. Again, these trellises, they look fantastic, of course, when made from ceramics, but they also look great when this technology is used. And again, by the way, they can be used in wet areas because it's plastic and nothing can harm it. Glass blocks have a rather outdated aesthetic, but nevertheless, on curved walls combined with wooden mirrors, they actually look quite decent. And at times I notice that particularly bold designers are starting to incorporate these elements into their interiors. And I must say, they're absolutely right to do so, because it really does look quite good. There's also a practical aspect to this, because it's a form of zoning, more substantial zoning, in a certain sense. But at the same time, the blocks themselves let light through. So, in general, you can even divide a small space like this bathroom into functional zones without losing any light, and use mirrors to increase the sense of volume and space. What also draws attention is the use of mosaic. There is quite a lot of it, in various forms and textures. Hexagons are becoming popular again. Perhaps this is the influence of Art Deco itself, or perhaps the influence of slightly later styles. Nevertheless, the material is very much in vogue, and it can be used not only in bathrooms. It can quite easily be used in living rooms, kitchens, naturally in dining rooms, and also in public projects. As for upholstery, apart from buccal, which has become a bit tiresome, there are nevertheless various other textured fabrics with very intricate patterns and some reliefs. By the way, we talked about this at the Heimtextil exhibition, so if you haven't seen it, do have a look as well. We devoted quite a lot of attention there specifically to this phenomenon in the development of the textile industry. Here on this floor, of course, what immediately catches the eye, as always, is a very playful, very ironic installation by Marcel Wanders, which he created in collaboration with a Swiss sanitary ware manufacturer. These rather utilitarian objects, although they do carry a certain, once again, neoclassical aesthetic, can also be used in not entirely traditional ways, as you can see. And naturally, a great deal of attention is still given to craft practices, with the object or material being absolutely anything at all. Here, undoubtedly, there is a great deal of ceramics, both in the form of tiles and as objects. There are also some metal items, made by hand. There is also a lot of woodwork, various ethnic crafts, weaving, and plenty of straw work as well. And this is a very good thing, because, as a rule, these items are unique simply by the nature of how they are made, and of course, they can add a certain character to any interior. And a couple more words should be said about kitchens, or more precisely, about kitchen islands. Almost all of the ones I saw here are made of stone and look like an actual block of stone. The material can vary here. That doesn't really matter much. It could be ceramic, or it could be quartz agglomerate. It's great if it's natural marble. And here, almost all the islands, whether of irregular or regular shape, were made in this, let's say, technique, in this aesthetic of these stone blocks. Friends, I must tell you that this was no less amazing than last time. It was definitely different. It wasn't the same, but it was certainly no less impressive. And I think that this particular format is the most convenient, because, firstly, Here you really do see, within a single building, the creations of different designers and architects working together with various manufacturers of all sorts of things. You see all this in the context of different rooms. That is, there are living rooms, dining rooms, bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchens, and laundry rooms. In short, even places like these are given attention.
Another good thing is that it often has a practical application.
Often, in some places, it has a conceptual aspect. By the way, this conceptual aspect is also, you could say, a kind of trend, an interior as partly a performance, an interior as storytelling, which in itself carries a certain narrative. Not the story of the people living in it, but a separate narrative of its own. And this, by the way, is a great find for public spaces, I think. For the especially bold, those who already have not just their first, second, or even third home, it might also suit their own interior, their own home. All in all, friends, just like last time, I highly recommend you visit Casa Decor at some point, because it really is worth it. In a convenient format, you can experience a lot all in one place, and, by the way, you definitely won't have to queue, because here, in terms of entry, everything is organized much better. You buy a ticket for a specific time slot, and they never let in more people than the set limit. So those 2 or 3 hour queues at every location in Milan seem completely pointless by comparison. Pointless, because there you spend 2 or 3 hours queuing at each location just to take 5 photos, which will definitely turn out worse than the ones you can get here, again, because there's no crowd. And I think this is definitely something worth sharing with your friends. That way, you'll help them out and, of course, support our channel as well. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a nice comment and give it a big like. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, because next time we'll be heading to another equally exciting design event. That's all for now. Goodbye.